All right, thanks for your patience, everyone that is on this Zoom call with us. You get to see the behind the scenes mess that my calls actually are. All right, so, and I think we are live on Facebook. I know we're live here because everyone's waiting for us to get started. Yeah, I think we're good. Okay, so hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Day 2 of the Copywriter Pitching Strategy Week. So if you weren't here yesterday, basically this whole week we're talking to 5 different experts, 5 colleagues that I know through this wild world of copywriting. And I wanted to kind of just talk about ways that we can thrive, right? Continue to reach out to people that we want to talk to, find these opportunities, and make the most of our time online, because obviously it is chaotic. There's a lot of stuff happening, but that doesn't mean that we need to stop or kind of, not reach out and talk to these people that we want to talk to. So I'm very, 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 very happy to have Michal, who I have known for about, 3 or 4 months. I think the first time I met her was through the mastermind that we were both in with Jacob McMillan. And then ever since that, right after that, I started hearing your name pop up like everywhere, like on Facebook groups and LinkedIn, and people talking about you and your website. I'm like, oh my goodness. So
can't get away from me, huh?
Yeah. So I'm happy that we actually got a chance to talk, because we were supposed to see each other in San Diego, right before all this madness happened. But
yeah.
But anyways, thanks for taking some time to chat. How are things? How's everything? You're in? So your time zone is
where? I'm in Israel right now. It's 11:05 p.m. here. Super late. Not following my best practices of a good bedtime routine, but I don't think anyone's following any great routine these days.
Yeah, I think everyone was like, there was like a two week phase where everyone was like really locked in, and then everyone kind of just realized like it's just like survive and make things happen at this point. So but anyways, so thank you again for joining. So really, I wanted to talk to you about LinkedIn. I think a lot of the people that are on this call, definitely in this Zoom chat and on Facebook, they know you, or they might know you as the LinkedIn, I don't know, LinkedIn queen. Can I say that? Like, I don't really know if you,
yeah, you won't be the first, actually. Nabil Aziz, I think, coined it. Or at least was the first one to give me that glorious title.
So, yeah, I wanted to talk to you about it because I think everyone sees, and everyone that is connected with you, they see what you have right now as far as a really great network, really consistent engagement, and you seem to really be able to build your business, or have built a really amazing business using LinkedIn as your primary tool. So hopefully everyone on this chat, if you guys have any questions, just throw them in the chat, throw them on Facebook, wherever you're at, and we'll get to them as we go. But really, we kind of just want to talk to Michal about ways that everyone can use LinkedIn more effectively, because it is, even though it has been around for such a long time, I think it really is kind of an intimidating platform, especially when you're trying to get a flow and really trying to stay consistent with it. So let's get started. Basically, the first question I want to ask you is, obviously there is no one route or one channel to use as far as building a copywriting business. What kind of drew you to LinkedIn in the first place? And how would you say, did it change your business?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll answer the second question first. How it changed my business, it's pretty wild. I have, thank God, built a multiple 6-figure business with LinkedIn being my #1 source of lead generation. I have not spent a penny in paid ads on any level. So we're talking all content-driven leads. And LinkedIn, therefore, I'd say, has played a humongous role in my life and in my business, and has really transformed everything for me. Now, in terms of why I started with LinkedIn, so I started about 2 years ago. And honestly, at that time, I was still figuring out my business, and I was pretty new to the whole building a business thing. I had been an agency copywriter until then for many years. And I was a complete social media ignoramus. I was not active on any platforms. I like social media was scary to me, and I didn't really know where to start. The only place where I had somewhat of a presence was LinkedIn. I had a profile, a basic profile there. So I felt like, let me just start there. I optimized my profile, and then I kind of started posting without much strategy or intention. It was more like I had some thoughts about marketing, about copy, about business building, and I just shared them like in a very organic, natural way without thinking to myself, oh, I'm going to get leads from this, or oh, I'm going to get business from this. It was like very experimental. And I started posting pretty consistently, and suddenly I realized that I'm really enjoying this. Like, it was just really nice to have a voice and to get my message out there and to engage with other people and to have interesting conversations with other people. And it really opened up a whole new world for me. And I was like, this is really kind of fun, especially when you're a copywriter and you're working mostly alone from your house, and it's a lonely life. So as an extrovert and a social person, this was really nice for me. And then suddenly I realized, like, wow, I can actually build my business through this as well, because the more I posted, the more I started getting leads. So the leads were almost like an afterthought. I didn't go into it with much strategy. And I will say that I started on LinkedIn in what I call the golden age of LinkedIn, when the algorithm was still desperate to push great content, and there were not so many great content creators on LinkedIn at all. So if you had like somewhat decent content, you were pushed to the top of the line and your content got distributed in an amazing way. So I definitely got in during that time where it was much easier to stand out on LinkedIn. So I will point out that if you start on LinkedIn today, it does take more effort and time and consistency to build that kind of following and get that kind of organic reach. The algorithm is much tougher these days. That said, I have mentored dozens of copywriters who have started on LinkedIn more recently in the past couple of months. And those who have been consistent on LinkedIn, really with that high value, engaging content, they've already seen some really nice results. I think LinkedIn is also a very natural platform for copywriters, because if you know how to write well, so you have an automatic advantage over everyone else on the platform. And the algorithm still favors long form content and text content. Video also does really well. So that's another great option if you have a good video presence. But if you know how to write, it's a much more natural platform than, let's say, Instagram, which is super visual. You got to be more artsy, creative,
Right.
photo centered. So for me, who loves writing and who finds it easier to write than, let's say, to post, to create picture perfect moments, this was a more natural platform for me. So I guess that's really why I started there. Another thing is just that I am very wary of social media. I have very little self-control, and I see it as a huge time suck. Mm-hmm. So the thought of going active on all 4 platforms or even 2 platforms was overwhelming for me. I worried that I would end up spending too much time on it. So I felt that of all the platforms, LinkedIn is really where people are hanging out to do business. So everyone on LinkedIn is interested in building a business, is there with a very specific focus and a very defined mindset of doing business. So there's a lot of low-hanging fruit there if you are a freelancer, if you're a B2B service provider.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, because that's really what the platform was built for. I mean, obviously these days, a lot of people do find business on Facebook and find business on Instagram and things like that, but those are purely for, entertainment, whereas LinkedIn was kind of built for this. So I can definitely agree. Like I've been trying to fight kind of getting past this hate for social media and trying to kind of make this connection. And I think LinkedIn, it kind of has that happy medium where, like you said, you can actually put time into like making one really, really great post, and then kind of engaging with people that way rather than having to consistently be on it and then just always kind of being around people, which is just exhausting, like for a lot of us.
Yeah.
So you mentioned kind of, so you do mentor, do you mentor copywriters specifically, or is it just kind of professionals that want to have a presence on LinkedIn?
Mostly copywriters through my courses and programs, but I do have other freelance professionals like designers and developers who've taken the programs or who have been mentored by me in some capacity.
Okay. And so I'm sure it kind of, it depends on each person, their goals, what they're looking to do as far as how they, how they approach LinkedIn. But I guess just in general, kind of for the people on the call and they're, thinking of how do I approach LinkedIn? How do you kind of work with people to scout or plan their attack as far as creating a long-term plan that they can kind of just trust the process and go in every day knowing that they're going to do this to hopefully see this result in 6 months or a year time?
Absolutely. So the first thing you need to do if you want to be active on LinkedIn and you want to generate actual leads on LinkedIn is create an awesome profile. That is step number one, because all roads lead to your profile. If you write great content, people are going to check out your profile. If you send someone a compelling direct message, they're going to check out your profile. If you comment on someone else's post with a thoughtful, insightful comment, they will click on your headline there and check out your profile. So you think of it like a funnel. If you write great content, but then people go to your profile and it doesn't reflect your expertise, or it's outdated, or it's just very me focused instead of customer focused, so you've kind of stopped the lead and cut the relationship short right there. So really the first step is to optimize your profile. And while that is like an entire masterclass in and of itself, the quick 4 tips I would give to really improve your profile fast are to focus on the 4 H's. So the 4 H's are the most important elements of your profile. Number 1, your headshot. So this is probably obvious, hopefully obvious to most of the people listening, but invest in a professional headshot. No selfies, no headshots with other people's hairy arms in the background or pets. Stay away from outdoor shots. Just invest the $250, $350 in a super standout headshot, because it really makes a difference. Profiles with headshots get viewed like 6 times as often as profiles without. So put something there, even if you don't have a professional headshot yet, and then go ahead and work on that. The second H after headshot is your headline. So that's the 120 characters below your name. And that is really, really important, because that is number 1, what the algorithm uses in its searches. So if someone's searching for copywriter or marketing consultant, you're going to be ranked based on your headline and some other factors, but the headline plays a big role. And it's what people see anytime you comment on a post. It's what people see when they're viewing other profiles, and you show up in that right-hand column as people also viewed. So it really, really can determine whether people click and check out your profile or not. So what I advise people in terms of their headline is be straightforward, in the sense that if you're a copywriter, make sure to include the keyword copywriter somewhere in your headline. Like, don't be so cryptic, or don't be so fun and creative that you end up hiding what you actually do for a living. But you should also find a way to position yourself in a more fun and memorable way. So add a twist, something creative, something different that'll make you stand out among others. That can be your niche. In addition to your niche, it could be something just fun about you, or it can be a question. It can be hitting on a pain point that you solve. So that would be H number 2. That's your headline. And the third H is the header, which is also, like, you can call it the background banner behind your headshot. That's prime real estate. There's so much you can do with that banner. So definitely don't leave it the generic blue background banner, because that basically just screams, I am passive and unintentional, and I just go with whatever LinkedIn gives me. So at the very least, put some kind of interesting stock image there. But even better, go to Canva or get a low-cost designer to create something branded for you. Maybe you want to even, if you have a great website, put your URL right up there, direct people to your website or to some other call to action, your logo, a brand tagline, some kind of message. It's really prime real estate. There's a lot of space there, so you want to use it to reinforce your brand. And the fourth and final H would be the hook, which is the very beginning of your summary, like that about section that describes you in 2,000 characters. And the reason the hook is so important is because only the first 2 or 3 sentences of that summary display on the profile. So you really have to intrigue readers right away and get them to click and read the entire summary. So like most copywriting, the hook or the headline, whatever you want to call it, is really, really critical. So while optimizing a profile can feel very overwhelming, if you do triage and you focus on those 4 H's and get those out, then you'll already have done like 60, 75% of the most important work.
Yeah, and I think the way you kind of frame that, also kind of treating your page as a funnel, or almost treating LinkedIn as the funnel. Because I think a lot of people want to, I mean, it is your profile, so obviously it has to explain who you are and why and what you offer. But at the same time, just as with everything else in copywriting, it needs to be focused to the person actually clicking through and looking at it, right? So I think keeping that in mind and making sure that it is focused on the person that you want to attract and what they can get out of a relationship with you. So that makes a lot of sense as far as...
Yeah, it's really a sales page.
Yeah.
You should treat it as a sales page, not as a bio.
Right. Yeah, because as soon as it says, so like, here are my interests, and then it just, they kind of glaze over.
Yeah. Or
Okay.
I have a demonstrated history and I'm super results driven.
Yeah. And it's so I think I see so many people with the title where it is just, you can tell how cute and clever they try to get with it and how they explain what they do. But that's interesting that you said about the algorithm actually searching through the title as far as how you show up in the search results. I didn't know that. So I guess that's just another point for being clear with your title. So, okay. So after somebody, so let's just kind of pretend that you're helping somebody at the beginning. So after you say you've set up your profile and you're all, optimized, if you want to say that, your profile set up, what would be like the next step if you're saying, I want to, start getting out there?
Yeah. So first, I'll just preface by saying that LinkedIn will work best for you if you also have a fabulous website, which is the next step after your profile, right? So the top of the funnel is the content, and then you have the profile. And then if your profile is intriguing enough, some leads will convert right then and there and message you on the platform, but most people will check out your website. So what I found is that LinkedIn was working well for me from the very beginning, but once I pushed my new website and made it live, it just blew up. Like I literally got 10 times the amount of leads with the same content that I was publishing, but because my website was so much stronger and branded and targeted and persuasive, I was getting many more leads and many more high quality leads. So LinkedIn is going to be that much more effective for you if you have that strong website as the next step in the funnel after the profile. But going back to the top of funnel, so once you have that profile in place, you want to start creating great content to drive people to your profile, to get people to start building relationships with you and following you. So in terms of content, what's really important to keep in mind is that you need to be posting at least 2 to 3 times a week consistently for 6 months straight in order to see any real results on LinkedIn, like to see real money. LinkedIn is a long game. It's not for people who want quick money. So you need to be able to commit to that consistency. And my personal approach in terms of what kind of content to create has always been high value content that is easy to consume, right? The typical LinkedIn reader is scrolling through their feed while they're eating lunch at the office, or just like while they're spacing out because they're too distracted to do any real work. So they're just like looking through the feed, and they want good stuff that will teach them something, but in a really easy, fast, tight, engaging way. So LinkedIn is not Facebook. You don't want to be posting too much personal stuff about where you were, where you're going. You can get personal, but to me, it's only valuable if there's a takeaway for your audience. Right. So if you attended an event yesterday, you want to talk about the event and what you got from it. Like, what are like the 3 highlights of the event, or 3 mindset shifts that you came away with. So what I did is I maintained this idea list, like this ongoing Google Doc, where anytime I thought of a content idea, I just quickly put it on the list. A lot of times while you're doing a client project, something will come up, something interesting you'll learn, you're reading a blog post, something like that. And then once a week, I'd sit down, open my idea list, and knock out 3 posts. Just literally like cross out the ideas as I went through them. It would take me time, and I tell people, if you're going to get serious about LinkedIn and you're going to write really tight, strong posts that are engaging and that start with that solid hook, it's going to take time. It took me, I would say, for 3 posts, it would take me 2 to 3 hours on average total. Wow. And some of the challenge there is that you have this character limit. So we have 1,300 characters per text post. So you got to really make it tight. And what I like to do is pack a lot of value, but because you're limited in characters, that ends up actually improving, enhancing the content, because you're doing less rambling, you're just cutting off all the flab, shaving those extra words. So that took time as well. So let's say Sunday, I would sit down and write 2 to 3 posts, and then spread them out during the week. I post personally like Monday through Thursday. I get the best engagement those days. I also get the best engagement afternoon Eastern time. That's worked the best for me, but depending on your audience, it may be different for you. And I try to write content that I myself would find interesting, that would be valuable and eye-opening. When we talk about giving value, right? Value is one of those like ridiculously overused words that everyone's talking about. Give value, right? What does that actually mean? So in my mind, value can be in one of 4 ways. You can entertain. That's a form of value, right? So just like something really interesting, funny. Raquel K. Albers is a really good example of that. You should check her out on LinkedIn, follow her.
She's hilarious. She's so funny on there. It's insane the amount of effort she puts into her content on there.
It's hilarious. I mean, I look forward to her videos so much. So that's like an amazing example of giving value through entertainment. She actually educates also while she's entertaining, but it's mostly entertainment. So you can give value through entertainment. You can give value through educating, teaching something new, or just not even something new, because there isn't even that much new stuff out there, but like framing it in a new light, or just repackaging it in a very engaging way and reminding people of an important fundamental. That's also educating. So there's entertain, educate, and inspire. If there's some kind of story or a meaningful thing that happened to you, that can also be giving value. And the final thing is to engage. So people like showing up as experts. So if you ask a question like, tell me about your best project management tool, or what's your best tip on XYZ? So that's giving your audience an opportunity to show their knowledge, and that's also creating more engagement between you and your audience. So I'd say those are 4 ways to give value. And before you publish a post, you want to look at your post and say, is it ticking off one of these boxes really well?
Yeah, that's super helpful. And I think an important kind of element that you touched on is understanding the mindset that people are on LinkedIn with. A lot of times, even if it is kind of a casual browsing, it's maybe they're at work or in their work hours. So they're not fully like disconnecting from their professional life, but they're still kind of, maybe taking a little break. So it has to kind of have that frame of reference where it is professional, but at the same time, it doesn't need to be, every post doesn't have to be like tips on how to do this. It can kind of broaden a little bit, but it should still kind of, like, I think framing it within those four types of content, it's really helpful, because you still want to be, like, you don't want to come off as a stiff just because it's a professional network, right? You still want to have your personality out there and kind of show people who you are.
Yeah. And I would also just add that because people are scrolling, you have to make your post really readable. So this is like a very technical tip, but you got to space your post.
Yeah.
Use emojis to break it up visually. You don't have formatting options like bold or italics on LinkedIn, but you can use caps and get creative with your formatting so that it's easy on the eye. If people want to get intense and like really consume serious content, they're going to read a 4,000 word blog post. That's not what LinkedIn is for. So part of giving value is making it super easy to consume.
Yeah, I think a lot, like the LinkedIn, I don't know what it's like officially called. I've seen it called broetry, where it's like line by line by line by line. And like, it can be annoying, but it works. Like, it works. Like, it's been studied. Like, that's how people read it, is line by line by line. So just like you said, making your content digestible. It's going to get them to click that little see more button, and then, and then it goes from there. So
someone asked in the chat, the name is Raquel K. Albers. If you want to check her out, last name Albers, Albers.
Yeah, whoever asked that, if you look at her content, you're just gonna be like, she puts on outfit, like multiple outfits, and does like a whole act, and then it's still within like this like the value of copywriting and persuasion and all that. So yeah, definitely look her up. It's amazing. So it's funny. So when you and I were kind of talking about this interview, a lot of the different days that I'm speaking with people is kind of framed around cold pitching, or like talking to people that you don't really know. Whereas LinkedIn, I think it's pretty clear, and you've kind of established it's a long-term game. And being a long-term game, it is heavily and almost 100% based on relationships. So I think people hear that and they're like, yeah, LinkedIn is about relationship building. But what does it actually mean to build relationships on LinkedIn, right? Because people will comment, people will like, and you'll be like, yeah, thanks, or something like that. But for a lot of people, me included, that just doesn't really feel like I'm building any sort of relationship or anything that's going to lead to anything. So what, in your eyes, what does it mean to build a relationship on LinkedIn? And how do you kind of translate this consistent posting of content into something tangible that could help your business and other people's businesses as well?
Yeah, so I will say that while relationship building is important, and I have made some really great relationships on LinkedIn that have led to collaborations and podcast opportunities and actual projects, I don't think you have to build a real relationship with every single person in your network. I think that there's a level of relationship of just showing up consistently with great content and then engaging with anyone who comments on your content. So that may not be like a deep relationship, but when you show up consistently week after week, people start to get to know you and like you and appreciate your unique style. And for most of my leads, that has been enough for them to get in touch with me and say, hey, I want to talk about a project. What's really interesting is that I'd say the majority of the people of my clients who have come through LinkedIn have never commented on any of my posts, ever. So there's this phenomenon called LinkedIn Lurkers. And so you have like two different audiences. You have your fans and your followers who are like very engaged with your content. And you got to really appreciate them because they're the ones who ensure that the algorithm keeps spreading your content, right? They may not ever end up being your clients. They may work in parallel industries, or they may not have the budget for your services. But the fact that they are engaging with your content gets your content out there and gets it in front of the eyes of the people who can hire you and will hire you. So it's important to remember that sometimes your best clients will never actually engage with you, but they'll be impressed enough by your content and your consistency that eventually, after a certain amount of interactions, they're just going to reach out. And I know there's like a stat out there that you need to interact with a brand, like, what is it, 6, 7, 10 times? How many?
I've heard like 6, I've heard 9, I don't know.
Something like that before there's any sale, right? So I think that's very applicable to LinkedIn. So the consistency is key. So I'd say that in terms of relationships, I don't actively go into my network, at least at this point in my business. Maybe I did this more earlier on. I don't actively go and like strike up conversations with people. If someone sends me an interesting comment or, you know, and a thoughtful comment, a pitch-free message, then I will definitely try to keep the conversation going, because this is a social network and you got to be social. But I don't spend a lot of time on the one-on-one relationship building. I find that it often happens organically, because you end up having the same people really like your content, resonate with your style, and then eventually it just naturally shifts to a one-on-one conversation, and you feel like you kind of know each other already by then.
That's interesting. I think that's super helpful and kind of a relief, I think, for people that want to approach LinkedIn, because it can be disheartening when you're not getting, you know, when you're only getting 3 likes on a post or 1 comment. But you know, there's so many people that are still seeing it and kind of keeping you on the top of their top of mind. Because I think an important like feature or like an element of this is that you're not on LinkedIn to create a desire, right? You're just on LinkedIn to be there when that desire that hopefully someone will have pops up enough for them to see somebody like, oh, and then here you are, because you're consistently posting, and they'll reach out to you. So it's really all about, I guess, kind of all of the social media is just staying top of mind. So then when your network is ready, then they'll reach out. I guess that's kind of the beautiful part of it.
Yeah. And another point is that sometimes your ideal client will come across like one of your posts 6 months in, right? You've been posting consistently 3 times a week for 6 months. And during the 6 months, somehow your post gets in front of the eyes of this client and they're really impressed. And then what do? They go to your profile and they start reading through all your past content, right? So even if in the moment your content didn't get so many views, or at the time, it sits there and they can look at it and they can be impressed by it weeks later.
Yeah, because I mean, I will say, the business that I have gotten from LinkedIn, it's like they comment on an article that I posted 4 months ago. And then I can only assume, like, once they do that, that means they're kind of going through all of my stuff and they're seeing the consistency. And the content itself is obviously important, but it's just so rare to see consistency that when you see it from somebody that you're looking to hire, that's somebody that you're looking to work for, it's just like it's a signal, like, oh, this person is like serious about their business. So I mean, that alone is like a key signal, I think, that gets overlooked and can kind of help people get these jobs, rather than stressing about, am I saying the exact words right in every post? It's really just kind of showing up consistently.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, I'll just share like a word of comfort is that it's not like this machine where you have to like keep feeding the machine for the rest of your life. What I have found is that if you really invest in LinkedIn for a solid 6 months to a year and you get a nice following, at some point you're a little bit on cruise control. You don't have to work as hard or post as consistently to get the same number of views or engagement. So the algorithm kind of like pegs you as a good content creator, and then you can ease up on your content if you want to, and you won't completely lose the momentum. At some point, shortly after I launched my website, I was getting such a crazy flood of leads through LinkedIn that I literally stopped posting on LinkedIn intentionally for for a good 6 to 8 weeks, because I just couldn't handle the flow of leads. I didn't have the time or headspace to manage all of them. So that was an interesting time for me. But I found that when I got back on LinkedIn, it didn't take too long to get the pipeline going again. So that's, so if that might make people feel a little bit better, that it's not like if you start now, you're going to have to post 3 times a week for the rest of your life.
So when you were talking about leads, and you mentioned earlier about sending people to your website, right? Having a nice built out website is really beneficial. Are you sending people to your website just to say, like, if you want to learn more about what I do, here's my .com, or are you saying, if you want to do this, and then sending them to like a contact page? Like, how do you generally do that?
Well, I have my website URL very prominently in the background banner on my profile. Okay. So that moves a lot of people to the website. And then I also have it as a call to action at the end of my about section. So I encourage people to check out the website. In fact, I don't include my email, if I remember correctly, or phone number in the about section, because I really want people to go to the website first and to follow the process of filling out an inquiry form there. There are some people who will message me on LinkedIn immediately without checking out my website, or after checking my website, and they just want to message me directly, and sometimes we'll end up closing a deal that way. But sometimes, especially if the lead seems to be low quality, I'll say, hey, this sounds cool, please fill out this form on my website, because I find that that's a really good filter, the form. It's not a long form, but the low quality leads don't bother filling it out, or they fill it out in a way that shows me that we're not going to be a good fit.
Yeah, and I think that's almost, I think that's one of the greatest parts about it too, is having a way to pre-filter people, because if you make it super easy, like, I don't know, this might be like against the right practices, but I think having it super easy to get in touch with you, then the people that are just kind of like bored and want to click around might get in touch with you. But if you present your profile in a way that makes sense, have your links available without pushing people there, and if they're truly interested in working with you, they'll take the time to fill out the form, to learn what you offer, to actually understand how this might actually work logistically, rather than just saying, like, on a whim, like, oh, she looks cool, let me click here and hit her up. Because that just becomes so exhausting, having to keep up. And I think that's one of the reasons why Facebook and other networks are so exhausting, because you just have to filter through all of this. I don't want to call it garbage, but sometimes garbage. So.
Yeah. I think that also it really depends on the stage of your business. So if you just started and your business is pretty new, you can't afford to be as picky and to qualify your leads as much. So you may want to direct them straight to that 15-minute Calendly meeting or whatever it is. But as you build your business, if you want to build the kind of business where it's not a volume driven business, it's not about like just take as many clients as you can get, but rather take a select group of clients you are crazy about, so then you can use your LinkedIn profile to further filter them.
And on that note, I think that's so I think I just feel like there's a lot of copywriters on LinkedIn. I don't know if it's just me because I'm a copywriter and that's kind of like the circles that I'm in. But I don't know, it just feels like there's so many copywriters on there. So how specific do you kind of tell your clients to get about their niche, or about how, who they serve on their profile? Because I know you do website copy and strategy for B2B and SaaS companies, correct?
Yeah.
So how specific, as far as your brand and your story, how deep do you kind of tell people to go into that on their LinkedIn profiles?
So it's interesting. I think that this is actually a change that has happened in the past 6 months to a year, that there's been many more copywriters on LinkedIn than there used to be. And for that reason, I am encouraging copywriters specifically to get very, very specific and niched in their headline to be able to stand out and be more memorable and differentiate themselves right from the get-go. I've actually been contacted by several people on LinkedIn who know that I mentor copywriters, and they say, I want to hire a copywriter, but I don't know like why I should hire one over the other. Like, I don't get what each one is doing differently. And they were kind of like asking me for insight. So that further reinforced my belief that niching, or at least experimental niching, you're not married to your niche, but going with a certain positioning or specialty for 6 months and strongly communicating that in your headline and profile, I think is a very good idea on LinkedIn, and is more likely to get you leads. In fact, I know someone who brands herself, one of my students brands herself as the real estate and construction copywriter. And she has told me multiple times that many of her leads end up not being from the real estate and construction space, but they remember her because of her niching. Like, so that she stood out for them. So even if you may end up getting leads beyond your niche, but I would say as a service provider, so whether you're a designer or developer, to try to get as specific as possible.
Yeah, and I think that's, I mean, just, I guess it's a broader copywriting piece of advice, but niching down does not it doesn't exclude you from any type of work that you want to put on. It just kind of solidifies you in whatever, in the market of copywriters. It just makes you a name that's easier to remember. How much do you post a lot of, as far as like the links and the features on your profile? Have you kind of built that out as far as, they have like a place where you can post a video or an image or underneath like your work profile. Do you kind of recommend building those sections out as well?
Absolutely. I've tried to leverage those sections as much as I can and put as many media as I can, and also vary the media. I can't say I update it as often as I should, but that's a really good opportunity. It's giving leads a more multi-dimensional experience of who you are and putting the samples right there so that you don't have to go anywhere. And especially videos, it can really create more of an emotional connection, especially, and if you're not posting videos, so at least have a video on your profile so people can hear you talk and get to know you more as a person. So I would definitely use those. I think you have up to 6 media uploads that you can put in your about section. And then you can also upload various media in your experience section in the various positions that you filled. So I would go all in and use that. If you have stuff from your portfolio you want to showcase, that's a great place to do it.
Okay, awesome. We have a question from Craig. So he says, I find the algorithm floods my feed with the people I most recently engaged, which is almost always other copywriters, which I feel you, Craig. I definitely feel you. How do you beat the algorithm so more people, and I assume you mean more people that aren't copywriters, see your posts?
Yeah. So firstly, I would advise spending some time expanding your network to people who are not copywriters. So what I suggest is spending 10 to 20 minutes a day scrolling through your feed and searching for high value content. The minute you see a post that you weren't impressed with or you enjoyed, what you want to do is follow that person immediately and then send a personalized connection request. So that makes it more likely that they'll accept you. So if you spend 10 to 20 minutes doing that a day and you add like 20 high quality connections per day, you're going to get more variety in your network and not just have copywriters follow you. That said, I don't think it's so terrible if copywriters are the ones who are initially engaging with your posts, because they still have their own networks of other people who are comprised not just of copywriters. So it's a good starting point. And if you post consistently enough, you will get beyond those copywriters. Another suggestion I have is that if you have a topic that would be relevant for certain people, you can promote your posts and get better engagement by tagging them so that they immediately engage with the post. Now, tagging you have to be careful with, because you don't want to annoy people and just tag people randomly to the point where it's like, oh, I know this person has a great following on LinkedIn, I'll just tag 20 people and hope that they engage. That's super annoying.
Yeah.
But if it's a specific topic where you feel like this person would have unique insight on, so you're giving them a chance to share their thoughts, and you're also increasing the likelihood of people engaging with your posts. So tagging is a good method that should be used carefully and sparingly, but it can work to promote engagement. One other method that I suggest for engagement, besides experimenting with days and times to see which gives you the best results, another methid is pods. Now, pods are really controversial because some people say they artificially boost engagement and it's not fair, like you're bypassing the algorithm. A pod is basically a group of people on LinkedIn. It's like a group direct message. And every time you post on LinkedIn, you copy the link and you put it in the pod. So everyone in the group is immediately notified that you just posted something, and they can quickly go check it out, like and comment. So that first hour after your post is critical. If you get 500 views in that first hour, you're good. You're going to get at least 4,000, 6,000 views total, because the algorithm looks at that first hour to evaluate if it was a good post or not, and if it's worth distributing. So that's why pods are beneficial, because everyone in the group sees immediately that you posted, and they can go check out your post and like and comment. Now, what's controversial about pods is like, hey, it's not fair. Everyone just likes and comments on other people's posts, and we should be looking more at the value and the content, right? So my policy with pods is that when people invite me to participate in pods, I'm very happy to join, depending on the group, but I'm usually happy to join if it's a group of high quality content creators. But I make it clear that I'm not committing to liking and commenting on every post that's posted in the pod. In other words, if I feel that your post will be valuable to my network, then I will engage with your posts. But if you posted something and you happen to be in my pod and I don't think your post is super valuable, or I don't think it'll be interesting or relevant to my network, I'm not going to engage with it, because I want my network to trust me. I want them, when they see Michal what's like this, I want them to check out the post and say, oh, if she liked it, it's probably a good post. So in order to build that trust, you have to be more selective in what you like and comment. So I think pods can work, but only if it's not like a given, a default that everyone just likes and comments on each other's posts, because that really does devalue the content, and it just messes things up so that people are getting poor content in their feed instead of the high quality content shining through.
Yeah, the pods is an interesting concept, because I'm actually, I'm, I guess, in a pod. So I have one of the actual, the add-ons, like the extensions, which is like, I forget what it's called, but it puts you, I mean, you have to like get approval from the person who owns the pod or whatever, but it is one where you just basically add your link and it gets automatically liked and commented by so many people. And honestly, it worked for me for a little while. And I don't know if LinkedIn got smart and kind of realized like, hey, this guy is just kind of trying to inflate his stuff. But I've definitely noticed the reach on the post has gone down from those. So are you talking about more like organic pods, where it's like you have this group of people in a message, where it's not a piece of software, it's not a tool, you're actually, these 10 people, and you're saying, hey guys, let's help each other out?
Exactly. Yeah, not automated, right?
Okay.
10 friends, 10 colleagues, and you all want to do well on LinkedIn, and you all post good content. So this way you can know when the other person posted immediately.
Okay. And Tamara asked, do you have any tips as far as how to find a valuable pod of people that, kind of maybe are a good fit for you and what you're trying to achieve on LinkedIn?
So firstly, if you're in a mastermind of any sort, that's like a great place to start. Just have a mastermind pod of everyone in the group. But beyond that, like, I would be proactive and create my own pod. So there's like 5 people who you kind of know, you're all copywriters, or you just travel in the same circles and you really like each other's content. So like, reach out to them and say, hey, I'm creating a pod of high quality content creators. Do you want to join?
Yeah, I think it's that simple. And nobody, like, if you actually know somebody, it wouldn't really make sense for them to say no. I don't think, if you're both trying to do your thing on LinkedIn. So yeah, I think I want to do that actually, is just reach out to a couple people and create a little group. One other question from Faye. Hi, Faye. So this is definitely something that I'm sure everyone that has ever went to LinkedIn.com and decided to post something has realized, is that it's not really just about creating the post and the content. It's about staying like in the conversations and reciprocating and actually engaging with people. So how do you, how do you stay sane? Because I know you get a ton of engagement, people commenting, and when people comment, they would appreciate you commenting back, but at the same time, you have to, live your life. So how do you kind of balance that?
Yeah. So in terms of responding to comments on your own post, to me, that's non-negotiable. Like, if someone took the time to comment on your post, the only decent thing is to engage and reply on some level. And if you're not going to do that, then like, it feels just like you're standing on a soapbox with a microphone, and that's not social, and that's not interaction. In terms of commenting on other people's posts, I do think 15 to 20 minutes is a fair investment. And I do think that if you would keep that up steadily, you will see results even in that time frame. I think more than, like, if you're posting consistently and spending 15 to 20 minutes engaging with other people's posts, I think you will see the results.
And I think a lot of it is just about being intentional with it, because it can seem like a lot if you're kind of like half checking your phone throughout the day, and you're like, oh, LinkedIn, oh, LinkedIn, oh, LinkedIn. But if you just say, I'm going to sit down for 25 minutes, 30 minutes, and just engage, and then be done for the day, and then it's done for the day, and you probably engaged with like 10 different posts, liked 20 other posts. So it's really, I think, just about being intentional, and like you said, being consistent. Faye, I think you're already doing a really good job. Every time I see her on LinkedIn all the time, and it is, I think she's built up a damn good following so far. So
yeah, I agree with that. I think that you only started fairly recently on LinkedIn, and you've been getting some really nice engagement on your posts.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, there she is. Hey, Faye.
How are you?
Good. Awesome. Cool. Well, shoot, that's pretty much all the questions I have for you. If anyone else has any last things they want to ask Michal while we have her. Okay, Craig, articles or posts? That's a good one. I have like 3 articles maybe. And then like every 2 months I'll get like just like a whisper. It's like, hey, you should publish an article. And then I do it, and then it doesn't do anything, and then I just feel dumb. So what is your opinion on articles versus posts?
Yeah, this is a great question. So the difference between articles and posts, articles are longer form, right? They're usually like 1,000 words or something like that, even though they could be any length, but they're usually more comprehensive, in-depth pieces versus posts, which are like little bites, bite-sized chunks of wisdom. The articles get no organic reach, like 0.
Okay.
So if you write an article, don't expect to get good engagement on it. The value of an article is that it sits on your profile, literally. Like visually, your most recent article sits right there. So what I advise people to do is to write, let's say, 3 articles a year, period. You don't need more than that. Like just to have somewhat of an updated, refreshed article sitting on your profile, an article that's very targeted and very compelling to your target audience. And with articles, you'll see that if it's a good enough article, it will build up engagement over time because people check out your profile and then read the article. So it's like very slow, but you will get views on it. Articles also, you want to leverage SEO, like you want to use SEO tactics in the headline. If you have the right headline, you can rank very high for that topic just on an organic Google search. So that's something to think about when writing an article. And then, besides those 3 articles a year, I would invest all my remaining time and energy in posts.
Good advice. Yeah, it's the articles. Yeah, it's so interesting because they're so highly prioritized as far as on the profile. Like you click and it's like the second or third thing you see. But then you post one and you get 2 likes, and then you just feel crazy.
Yeah. One hack is, like, let's say you do a series of posts, like a series of website copy tips or any kind of series. So just like pull those together and make an article out of them.
Right. No, that's a good idea. And can't you? And I assume if you were to tag, if you made a post tagging your article, since it's kind of within the platform still, that you're not going to get like because obviously they don't want you to leave the platform, so that you probably don't get a ping a ping and reach if you tag your own articles. So that could be another way if you really want to.
That makes sense. Yeah, I've never tried it, but that does make sense.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody on Facebook leave any questions?
Tamara had another question. Hi, Tamara. She wanted to know, did you miss time of day to invest your 15 to 20 minutes? Yeah, I didn't mention that, but I should have. That basically, besides posting consistently, you should invest. I wouldn't even say 15 to 20 minutes. Probably 10 minutes a day would be enough for this also. Like 10 minutes engaging with other people's posts, so you don't end up just looking like this self-centered content creator who's blasting out content to the world but doesn't care about anyone else's stuff.
Cool. Yeah, no, that's good advice. All right, I'm trying to think if I have any other goodies that I can try and pull from you. Is there any? So I guess the last question we can kind of leave it at. Do you see any difference as far as how we should kind of treat and use LinkedIn given the current climate and kind of moving forward? Or do you think LinkedIn is just going to keep trucking as it's been going? Have you like seen any changes recently? Anything that might help people as far as how, you know, how they can kind of use it going forward? Or is it just everything that you've said today still applies or still will apply for the, you know, foreseeable future?
Well, I think one thing to keep in mind is that LinkedIn constantly changes the format of your profile. So like check your profile every 3 months, like make it your business to check it out, because sometimes they shift the sections. So a section that was really important is no longer as important, is put lower on the page. We have to mention in the comments that there's a new section called featured. Articles no longer automatically sit in front of everyone for your profile. So while I think on my profile, the article is still pretty prominent. Like check out your profile and see what's being highlighted and what's higher up on the profile and spend more energy on that. So the display is important to keep on top of. And I think in terms of content, now during this COVID period, you really want to acknowledge the fact that, yes, people, I mean, I did a whole panel on this 2 weeks ago, but like even your regular content can be framed to acknowledge that we're in the middle of some kind of crazy pandemic crisis. So like to completely ignore the fact that we're all in this very challenging and difficult state is tone deaf. So you really want your content, not that you always have to have heavy downer content, but maybe you want to be posting on how like what you're doing right now, like how to pitch and generate leads even during this climate, right? So that's very relevant, time-sensitive content. So when creating content during this time, you want to really be thinking about that and remembering that bottom line, Corona's on everyone's minds. So your content should reflect that.
Awesome. And last question before we let you go. I know it's midnight. I don't know. I don't know how you're still alive, but so are there any comment word length things? So Instagram having more than 7 words makes it a more like legit, I guess, comment in the algorithm's eyes. Have you seen anything like that on LinkedIn?
Yeah, so I haven't seen anything like concrete in terms of rules, but I have seen from my personal experience, and I've seen other LinkedIn trainers post this as well, that the algorithm prioritizes longer, more meaty comments.
Makes sense.
So, you know, a comment like "thank you" is not going to do as well as a comment that really adds an insight. So if you like, I know someone actually who barely posts on LinkedIn. She doesn't have the time or headspace, and for her it's just not a priority, but she does spend, let's say, 20 minutes a day commenting on other people's posts, and her comments are thoughtful and long, and they're not just like, cool, great post. And she told me that she generates a fair amount of leads each month on LinkedIn just from her comments, people who are impressed by her comments. So clearly the algorithm is kind of spotlighting her comments, and that is another way to stand out.
Yeah, maybe if you find a post that you really like take a couple days to think about what you would want to say and build out a long comment rather than, you know, eight thank yous that really don't add anything to the conversation. So I think that's
right. Although I wouldn't take too many days,
yeah.
because, you know, with the algorithm, it prioritizes more recent posts.
Right. Okay. Awesome. This was super helpful. Thank you so much for this late night LinkedIn convo.
Great.
So thank you, everyone. We're going to wrap things up here. If you have any questions for Michal, you can go to her website. I'm sure you all know her website, but I'll post it in here just in case. And I'm around if you guys have any questions. Yeah, or obviously go to hit her up on LinkedIn. That's where she's killing it. So thank you again, Michal. I really appreciate you taking some time to chat.
Great to be here. Take care.
Take care, everyone. Thanks for coming, and see you tomorrow and the next 2 days after that. All right. See ya.